Sidhu, welcome to the Bearded Badass Podcast. How you doing today, my friend?
I'm really good, thank you. How are you feeling?
All things considered, I'm doing pretty well. It's been a rough couple weeks with the family and
Yeah,
whatnot, but the sun is shining. It's beautiful weather outside, and I get to have this conversation with you that we've been trying to get lined up for several weeks now. So I'm really
yeah,
excited about that.
awesome,
So,
awesome.
before we get started, why don't you give the audience just a little bit of background on who you are and how you got to doing what you do?
Okay, my name is Terry Sidhu, formerly known as Talwinder, and recently released a book on meditation, and I've been meditating pretty much my entire life. And yeah, my mom introduced me to meditation at a young age, and that led me into, navigating my life into a specific direction based on how I felt and how I wanted to experience the world. I have a background in life coaching, and I've been coaching for about 10 years. And when my clients started asking about mental health struggles, I started teaching them meditation techniques. And that's when I realized, oh, people don't meditate. And so I started teaching meditation more and more. And next thing
Right.
you know, I'm moving and opening a meditation studio, which closed down, then wrote the book, and now I teach meditation full time.
Oh, that's awesome. I have found over the years that meditation can be extremely powerful for so many reasons, and we're going to get into some of that here in later on in the episode. One of the things that has been very prevalent in what I do with helping people, get in better shape, reduce their body fat and things like that is that mindset is so key to everything that we do. If our mindset isn't right, a lot of times we're going to go down paths that we don't need to go down, and we're not going to be able to see the forest for the trees, so to speak. And I have found in my own life that meditation really, really helps with that. What would you say are some of the things as far as struggles with mental health that men are going through these days?
I think men are still very much suffering in silence. There's no sense of there's no way there's not men haven't been taught how to be vulnerable, and as a result, things that they want to experience and try, explore, learn, kind of get
Hmm.
repressed or suppressed, rather consciously suppressed. I can't talk about this. It's going to make me feel weak. It's going to expose a vulnerability with this. That's going to happen. So what
Right.
meditation does is strengthens that ability to make you realize, holy, I don't want to swear, but holy hell, like this this truth, this vulnerability that I'm feeling is literally trying to navigate me to these states of, let's call it, enlightenment in life, to experience life in the most awe and wonder that it can possibly be. But because we've been so programmed to suppress that as a male being, it's
Hmm.
causing us to develop such mental illnesses such as depression, anxiety, fear, and anxiety in men I've noticed, and there is similarities among men and women when in the way they experience mental health, but men specifically, I've noticed when they talk about anxiety, it's always like things getting exposed, things getting like, oh, it's all going to unravel, it's all,
Hmm.
and it's teaching these techniques that enable them to feel more comfortable with that with themselves first, and then learning,
Hmm.
eventually relearning how to communicate from that place of truth.
Yeah, exactly. It seems like men, now granted, I think I'm a fair amount older than you, but for so many years, men have been programmed. They're supposed to be the strong ones. They're not supposed to be all emotional. They're the ones that just go out and bust their back and work for their family and stuff like that. And while that particular aspect of it is a great thing to have built within you, it's the part where you're taking all of your emotions and all your feelings and just kind of bottling them up inside and without processing them, like just like you said, it leads to all these other things that come about in life that actually get in the way of what it is that we're trying to do. I know me personally, um, not so much from necessarily a meditative state, but like when I'm really trying to tap into my creative juices, whether it's doing video creation or whatever, I have found that if I turn down the lights, put on some relaxing music, whether it be binaural beats or just like some instrumental music with maybe like a water fountain running in the background, maybe burn some incense,
Hmm.
just kind of curating my space at that moment. I have found that it just releases all that negative energy and it allows me to focus in on that creativity so much more. But I feel for men in general to find whatever it is, whether it's meditation or whatever the case may be, and utilizing that to process through some of these emotions and stresses that they have, I think it's going to benefit them not only with their physical health but mental health as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're learning to be true to yourself, and as a result, you're building your life as such. That whole idea of preparing the environment, grounding your senses, as you're talking about with the binaural beats, the warm lighting and whatnot. I call all of that
Mm-hmm.
preparing to meditate, because what
Mm,
you're doing in that sense is you're actually grounding your senses to be present where they are, so that you can trust to leave them behind. And
right.
to get to even that point for a lot of men is quite difficult too. I've spoken to several men, and even just like creating that whole space kind of feels too vulnerable too. To even be
Mm-hmm.
feel as if like, oh, don't worry, John is meditating or whatever, is it's a lot. It's a
Right.
vulnerability to that as well. So when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to starting the meditation practice, I always encourage breathing, and learn basically life based on the first thing that you did when you were born. You know, your breath
Right.
is the fundamental component to life. Without it, the body is
Mm-hmm.
completely useless. So, what
Right.
we talk about in terms of breath is first just get to grips with learning properly, with breathing properly. And that will not only significantly improve your mental health, but it'll start teaching you how to navigate and build upon your physical health too. You know,
Mm-hmm.
imagine trying to lift dumbbells when you're angry compared to when you're lifting dumbbells when you're clear minded and focused. And you'll notice there's
Right.
a distinct difference in the way you breathe with both of those emotions and mindsets. So if you're now
Absolutely.
building your life based on that fundamental breath, that consciously controlled breath, I can only
Mm-hmm.
you'd sculpt your body and you'll sculpt your mind and create your life in accordance to how you
Mm-hmm.
want to breathe. Therefore, it's not about being the biggest; it's serving the truth that you have within.
Right, right. You know, and it's funny that you brought that up because I know I work a lot with my clients, using different aspects, like you know, because there are some people that I work with that I'm training them for explosive power, and
Mhm.
for those types of exercises, yeah, you're going to have those, you know, real fast movements and things like that. Those explosive one way movements are really really good to develop that inner strength that is just, you know, explosiveness for performance. But at the same time, when you're working with somebody who's trying to for example build muscle mass, slowing things down and controlling the tempo of the movement is so vital. And you're absolutely right, the breath patterns change as you go
Mhm.
through those different things. So now, and I'm glad you brought breath up, because now for those who have never done any kind of meditating or anything like that before, is that where you recommend they start first in controlling their breathing and paying attention to it and trying to be more present?
Yeah, because literally everything that you experience in life comes after your breath. You know, every thought, feeling, and sensation only exists
Mhm.
because you breathe. So, what you're essentially doing by getting in control of your breath, and the control breath is very simple, it's just a gentle inhale and exhale through the nose at a comfortably controlled manner. Basically, just think about how
Mhm.
do you want to breathe for the rest of your life, and there's your control
Right.
breath. It's like
Okay.
identifying your control state. It's like when we're in science class and we have the control experiment and then we try all these different things. Your control breath enables you to re-engage your control state, and you measure all your experiences of life against it. And
Hmm.
when you start by developing your control breath and you start your practice there, you're essentially teaching and training your mind and training your body that, okay, whatever I'm experiencing, this breath comes first. And if whatever
Right.
I'm experiencing is taking this breath away, changing it in a way that
Mhm.
doesn't feel comfortable, then we need to change,
Mhm.
or basically create something to change that experience, to affect it, to move it, to develop a solution to the problem, whatever. But it becomes like a nice control measurement that you can measure everything against: relationships, fears, anything. And it starts with
Yeah.
breath, because literally without it, there's no life.
Well, yeah, when you think about it, it's like I know I always heard, growing up, that if you're frustrated or upset or you're angry or whatnot, one of the first things that I learned was stop, take a deep breath, just kind of reset yourself. When I was younger, I had a lot of problems with anger issues. And that was one of the things that through therapy I learned. It was like, no matter what it is that's going on, no matter what has you at that point that you're literally just ready to explode, in that moment, just be thoughtful enough to stop, take a deep breath in, a deep breath out. And after you let that breath out, then look at the situation and see if it doesn't look differently. And if you notice that it does look differently, then take another breath. And as you go through that process, you find that whatever has you so worked up in that moment isn't necessarily as bad as what you're making it out to be.
Mm-hmm. And I think if more people meditated and started learning these fundamental principles, we wouldn't have to pay $200-$300 to see a therapist to teach us how to breathe. I'm trying to get this stuff into schools. And it was, in India in pre-colonial days, meditation and yoga was a fundamental component to the education system. And it's a shame that it's been stripped out. Yeah. If you're going to, I used to study history alongside all the sacred texts and stuff, and I was just curious about like creation and how the world was. And when I started studying all the colonial movements and whatnot, I started realizing how when the British started taking over India, they couldn't do anything but bring gifts and shine dangly things so to distract the society and really seep into the education. They replaced yoga with PE. And so things like that, which goes to show how much, our innate education that we've needed to really access our full intelligence has been slowly stripped away. And everyone's talking about how mad the world is right now, how corrupt it is, what's going on. And I'm like, I'm a brown kid from the middle of England teaching meditation. The world couldn't be better for me.
Right.
And
absolutely.
we're talking about breathing. Here I am with you talking about breathing in a podcast targeted towards men. To me, that seems like progress.
Right. Sure, absolutely. And I think part of the I don't know if you'd want to call it a stereotype or whatever around the whole concept of meditation, especially with men, is most people think that it's okay. Well, if I'm going to meditate, then I have to take 60 minutes out of my day, and I have to try to find time, and then I have to make sure that I'm in the right place, and I have to make sure that the lighting's right, and I have to make sure this is right. It's just like when people go into the gym. They're like, oh, well, I have to have the right workout shoes, and I have to have the right gym clothes, and I need the right gym bag and all this stuff. How simple is it to just get started meditating, and what should people target for? Like when they initially get started, should they target for 5 minutes, 10 minutes? Is there a particular time frame? What seems to work best in your experience?
If you're brand new to meditation, and I teach this in my free starter pack, it's like this mini course that I put together to get people on the right page.
Okay.
If you've ever dealt with a problem in your life whereby it's gotten so intense that you've just had to go outside, go for a walk, or just leave the room and get some air, and then clear your mind and then come back to the situation to solve it. If you do that consciously, like literally, like knowing that I'm going to leave, figure out the problem and come back, that's a form of meditation. And so what you're doing is to do that a little bit more consciously, to realize, whoa, this is getting overwhelming. Rather than dealing with the things that are causing you stress, be very aware that, oh, I am stressed. And once you can catch yourself in that moment, take a deep breath, consciously remove yourself from whatever's going on, give yourself a few moments to think, to recover, to restore control, and then return to the situation and resolve it. All you have to do is train that for even just doing for a few weeks, in your life. And once you're able to do that, you'll eventually be able to sit in contemplation and do that sitting with your mind, everything that you experience within.
Yeah. Yeah. I follow a lot of ultra performers, people like Tim Ferriss and Aubrey Marcus and Tony Robbins and things like that. And some of them take as little as 10 minutes when they first get up in the morning to just be present in themselves and practice gratitude. Practicing gratitude seems to be something that really centers them back. And I mean, we're talking about people that have mad, crazy schedules, and the pressure on them is just phenomenal. But yet they take those few minutes for whatever it is. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because when I sit and I take what you said and I look at all these other things that I've heard from all these other people, even those things, just taking 10 minutes to practice gratitude, or taking 5 minutes and doing a cold plunge first thing in the morning, stuff like that. It's all about bringing yourself back to a centered place, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point is, I mean, gratitude, I always find gratitude to be way more effective after a process of meditation. Gratitude,
Mm-hmm.
mindfulness, these buzzwords that we use,
Mm-hmm.
they're more integrations than they are meditations.
Right.
Integration is the component where where meditation is the process of basically raising awareness. Integration
Okay.
is pulling that awareness in and recognizing it. And so the idea of gratitude, the meditation would be to focus all your attention on the things that you're grateful for. And then to be
Mm-hmm.
grateful is the moment where you're pulling in and integrating that awareness. And
Mm-hmm.
everyone, I believe, needs, like, I don't understand why we aren't meditating. I can understand how there are so many problems in the world because, I mean, we sleep to recover from the limitations of our body. We need to be
Mm-hmm.
meditating to recover from the limitations of our mind. And if the
Yeah.
body is getting overwhelmed and exhausted, then
Mm-hmm.
and the mind will be also. We sleep to deal with the stresses and the difficulties that our bodies go through, but we do nothing to handle all the pressures and stresses that our minds go through. And meditation,
Yeah.
once you get into it, you'll start realizing, oh, I should have been taught this at school. I should have been doing this every day. It just removes all the clutter and super focuses you.
Wow. That's great. And all right, so let me ask you now, we've talked about how to basically get started and different ways that you can go about doing that, and the different things that actually, constitute meditation. Now, I know that things like prolonged meditation and other things like that can actually lead to heightened states of awareness. Um, what does that entail? How do you work towards achieving those heightened states, and what can people typically expect, or how can they identify when they've reached those heightened states?
Well, that's a big question. There's a few steps that we have to go through before getting to those heightened states of awareness, like transcendence and enlightenment. So
Mm-hmm.
the first stage is learning to detach. I mean, your meditation process, you go from learning to separate yourself from your experiences of life and then repeating that in the mind, and that's known as detachment. That moment when you walk out the
Okay.
room to get some fresh air, you are detaching from the situation, and you repeat that in
Right.
the mind. And I have this 5 step
Okay.
process that teaches that. You breathe, get control, position your body so you're comfortable, breathe, position, and then roll your eyes up and lock into your meditation, and then you're meditating. And you keep repeating that
Mm-hmm.
process. And that's where the journey into transcendence begins. You're learning to detach more and more and more and more. Because you think about
Mm-hmm.
it, this is where you start, and this is where transcendence is. Between where you start
Okay.
and where transcendence is are all these distractions, all of these ideas,
Oh yeah.
ways of being that are going to pull you in. Let's say at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, it's just like all the senses, everything that you can hear, smell, taste, touch, all of those things are gripping you. But you're like,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, I've detached from them. Senses are grounded. I don't need to be aware of them. Okay, then you're moving to the next round. You're in the mind.
Right.
Ooh, my traumas, my fears, my anxieties are pulling you in. Nah, not interested.
Mm-hmm.
I'm detaching from them too. Oh, but what about all these ideas and these future constructions and what the world could be? Get out of meditation and start creating this. No, I'm not interested. I'm detaching from them too. Now you're elevating. Now you're moving up. And then you can start
Okay.
developing, you start going to all sorts of wonderful places, but you detach from them too. And you just keep
Hmm.
detaching and detaching. There's going to be moments where it's going to be like, if you continue, you're going to lose everything. You're going to, like, do you know all these stories, these religious stories I used to read as a kid? They're all about these
Mm.
gods and deities alluring you, pulling you here. That's was all they were teaching you
Mm-hmm.
meditation. They were saying there's going to be points where you feel like you're connecting with Krishna or Jesus or Buddha or whoever else deity, trying to say, hey, you're wonderful, you're bliss, go
Right.
back into life and go be happy. All their job
Mm-hmm.
is basically trying to see if you're worth going to that state of transcendence.
Mm-hmm.
Can you make it without the distraction? Can you let go and relinquish all attachment to meet your maker?
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason why the journey is so tough is because it's almost like you're getting a peek into something that you left behind in order to whatever fulfill. I mean, this can go very esoteric, but the journey into transcendence is just basically detachment. And all I do when I teach meditation is teach you how to detach. That's the basic of it. Teach you how to separate yourself and continue that process to however far you want to go.
That's amazing. I could see where meditation can be so powerful, because I know through through my studies and my journey that detaching yourself from many different situations, whether it be distractions or irritants or things that just drain your energy, being able to recognize and detach yourself from those situations improves the quality of your life. So the fact that you can do that with meditation and achieve these higher levels is like really, really fascinating to me. But now, okay, so in most cases, meditation involves, curating the space of some sort, and then just sitting kind of quietly. Are there other ways that we can kind of restore our mental health and get like the benefits of meditating without having to sit there silently just thinking?
Absolutely. And this is where I get kind of esoteric again, because I don't know whether you've heard the concept of chakras before.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Yes.
chakras, the most simplest way I've been able to kind of define a chakra is, you know how a computer has a motherboard and it has all these little chips, and every
Mm-hmm.
single chip has its own little data. So, for example, when your computer heats up too much, the fan kicks in and it starts cooling that part down. And
Mm-hmm.
so a chakra is like a microchip that has its own data, which tells you how that specific area of your body is functioning and how that
Mm-hmm.
specific function is impacting your life. So we have 7 of these
Right.
chakras, and it will get
Mm-hmm.
simpler, I promise you. The logic will kick in at some point. And these 7 chakras are designed to designed to help you move into states of meditation. And the
Okay.
first one is so bloody simple. It's just health, your cyclical connection to all life. Basically, the first
Mm-hmm.
chakra is it's post enlightened state. We don't need to worry about where the chakra energetic field is. We don't need to worry about any of that. We just need to
Mm-hmm.
focus on, and this is going to be very to the point and blunt, is we just need to focus on what's literally coming out of our butts. Like, is it healthy? Is it
Mm-hmm.
nourishing? Is what we're
Yeah.
consuming healthy for us? Is our
Mm-hmm.
body healthy? And then on top of that, what's coming out of the holes of our body, we've got to really pay attention to, including breath.
Right.
Is our breath
Mm-hmm.
healthy? Is the way we're breathing healthy? Because if it's not,
Mm-hmm.
already your meditation is going to be restricted, because all your energy, all your focus, all the conscious energy in your body is going to try and pull you to focus on health. And if you're
Mm-hmm.
denying that, trying to get to transcendence, good luck. You may
Mm-hmm.
kind of lose a
Yeah.
leg in the process. But
Mm-hmm.
so, and that's where yoga comes in, because it teaches you to strengthen your body and strengthen your physical health, so that is not something you have to detach from. And you don't have to
Right.
sit in meditation to learn that. You just got to look at what's going on in the kitchen. You got to look at what's going on in the
Mm-hmm.
bathroom. You got to look at how you're breathing and navigating through the world. The root
Right.
chakra is beautiful because it really connects you to your all connection to life. For
Mm-hmm.
example, when I started meditating on the chakras, I started realizing how we have this cyclical connection. For example, when I exhale carbon dioxide and inhale oxygen, the trees are doing the opposite. They're exhaling carbon dioxide and
Mm-hmm.
breathing in oxygen, give or take a few elements
Right.
here and there.
Yeah.
And already, just by breathing right, I realized I have incredible value to the preservation of all life. And maybe a complete
Mm-hmm.
asshole, might be a complete dick to the world, but as long as I'm breathing right, I still have value.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sure.
when I'm working with, for example, when I was working with like prisoners and stuff, I was like, right, all the subconscious content and all the motivations that led you to do all the wrongdoings and stuff, let's pull you
Mm-hmm.
back to the very source of your life and your breath. And this is where basic
Right.
redemption gives in, and forgiveness. And that's what, all these religious stories start teaching us. It's like, hey, get to the basics, man, get breathing. And then once you've got
Yeah.
that cyclical connection intact, and you realize how valuable just by breathing you are to the bigger picture, to the grander scheme of things, you then can move on to the next level, because you're right, now my body, now I know how to stay healthy. Now I know why I have to stay healthy, why I have to keep preserving this life. You can move to the next level. What's the next level? Well, now I'm healthy. I want to know what I can do with this thing, with this body that I have. Why am I keeping it healthy? So if I want to know what's on the top of that mountain, if I want to dive deep into the middle of the ocean, I need to train my body and work my body so I can learn. It's about engaging your curiosities, moving to that next level. So going from the root to the sacral. And then basically, I will say the sacral is, you've just realized you're alive. You know how to keep this body working and functioning, the very basic needs of life. You know that those are the things. And it couldn't be even easier. Your tummy rumbles when you're hungry. Your mouth dries up when you're thirsty. It literally, the intelligence is incredibly simple. And then once you've got those intact and you can keep yourself alive, it's time to learn what your body can do and start engaging the curiosities that you have. Learn about this world. Learn about what's going on around you. Discover, what do you want to discover? Do you want to see what's lurking under that rock? Go for it. All of these aspects are teaching you how to meditate, because you're learning to listen to your innate truth. First, it was the intelligence of your body. Now it's the intelligence or the intellect or the curiosities that are sparking you to move forward and move in certain directions. All again, listening to the truth. You're starting at the basic fundamental levels. Then once you know how to keep yourself healthy and you know how you want to play in the world is a playground, and you just decide how you want to play it. Solar plexus or root to sacral, and now we're moving up to the navel, the third tier. So health, play, and now it's time to trust in yourself. You trust yourself to keep yourself alive. You trust yourself to know what's good for you and what's not good for you, how to stay safe and not safe. If you climb the mountain without that rope, there's a good chance you might fall and, do all that. But, you know how to keep yourself going. So that third chakra, you've got that self-trust now. Do you know how I said you have the control breath to measure against all aspects of life? You have a control state of health. You have a control state of play to now trust yourself in such a way that if you start connecting and interacting with other beings on the planet, you can now measure if interacting with those beings is healthy for you, because you can see how it's affecting your physical health and how it's affecting your the way you want to play and be curious in the world. Like, for example, if I'm coming up to you and say, hey, eat this apple, it's the best apple ever. And you're like, my body, I've tried that apple before, or I'm not quite sure. You taste the apple and you realize instantly this apple's not good for me. You're like, okay, I need to be wary over here. So you can start building that self-trust from within. You don't rely on the entire world to tell you how to be and navigate. You have that trust within yourself, which enables you to really build and create the things that you want to experience in life. And then it keeps on moving up. So once you've got all that set, then you go to your heart and how you communicate with your heartbeat. And this is where it gets more esoteric again. And then you've got your truth, and then you've got your third eye and crown. And again, these levels of intelligence will only start making sense when you start with the health first. And there you are, you're meditating without even sitting in contemplation.
Wow, that's cool. And I, as someone who studies the science, in my field, I'm truly fascinated anytime I talk to people, like yourself, or I listen to podcasts or I read articles and stuff about these alternative ways of improving the quality of our life. I have on my other podcast, I've had energy healers on, I've had, sex therapists. I mean, you name it, because for me, T2 nutrition and wellness, for me, wellness is all encompassing. It's mind, body, spirit. And in order to be whole and be healthy, we need to address all those issues. It's not just one thing. Is our body health, is that the foundation of everything? Yeah, it is, because if your physical health is off, then certain neurotransmitters aren't going to be there like they should be. And certain hormones and things like that can affect other aspects of our lives. But I love the way that you kind of draw that correlation between, starting at the bottom and working your way up. And I think that if more people paid attention to a process like that, just going back to basics and then moving forward, I think people would be a lot happier and a lot healthier for sure. So now we're running out of time, and I want to talk about your book some. Why don't you give us a little insight into your book and what people can expect to find there?
Yeah, so I wrote the book because what I was reading about meditation and what people were coming to me about meditation with was incredibly misguided and mistranslated. And to me, meditation is about empowerment. It's not relaxation. It's not about calm. Why would you need that when you can sleep and rest? Meditation is a conscious process. So what I wanted to put out there was a book that taught you how to recognize your intelligence as a human being. I put it in, the book is about 33,000 words long. It was double when I wrote it. And I took out all of the dogma, took as much of the esoteric stuff out as I could, just so I could get to the formula of meditation. The subtitle, it's called Breathe into Meditation and Awaken Your Potential, because that's what it does. You start breathing, you realize that you can meditate, and then you start awakening certain aspects of your body. So in the book, you're going to learn what meditation is, get an introduction to meditation. You're going to learn how to meditate with the 5-step process and detach. There's a section in there called Deepening Your Meditation, which goes into more of those transcendental heights. I thought to throw a little bit in there. And then at the last section of the book is where I go through that whole development of the chakras in a very logical, the most logical way that I could put it. And there's little exercises throughout the book to kind of help integrate all the knowledge throughout, because I know it's brand new for a lot of people. And I've kept the language very simple. And and there's a free starter pack that you can access too. So once you've read the book, or even before you're attempting to read the book, you can learn the basics with some instructional videos.
That's awesome. Terry, I really want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule. And I know we had some scheduling mishaps and some other things going on, so we had to try this a couple times. But I'm really glad that you hung with me through all that, and we got to sit down and do this episode. Where's the easiest place for people to find you? Where can they find your book? I want to know where to find your book because I want a copy, but I want to let all the listeners know where they can reach out and contact you or find your book or whatever.
The easiest place to go is meditatethebook.com. It's available on Amazon. That's the primary outlet that I'm selling, but all the major online retailers, book retailers, have the book. But yeah, meditatethebook.com. It'll direct you straight there.
Gotcha. Now, is it just in hard copy, or is it also Kindle audiobook? Any plans for any of that?
All the above. We've got it in audio form. I'm not narrating it. It's I've hired someone because I do not have the skill to narrate the book.
Why? You got a great voice, dude. Your voice would have really carried over that. I really do think that.
Yeah, I'm a teacher, not a narrator. Like I'd end up going off on all these tangents of trying to teach something. It was hard enough condensing this down. I'll be going double the amount of the audiobook.
That would have been fun. I listen to audiobooks all the time, and people are like, okay, I'm going off script, and then they go off on a tangent, and then they pull themselves back in. And I think, me personally, I think the author sharing those kind of off script moments, I think is really cool. So maybe it's sometime you might want to think about, like when you write your next book. You might want to think about
developing all these kids programs and meditation for kids and whatnot.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's important. The reason why I put this one out first is that if I can convince the parents to meditate, we can, as long as they're just setting the example, then it's just about teaching the tools to the children and giving them.
So true. So true. Yeah. All right, my friend, I'm going to let you run. Thanks for taking the time to be on the show. I have not had a chance as of yet to get you some of our products. You've got the scruff beard going on. I love it. Bald head. So I need you to send me your address. I'm going to get you some bald head care products and some stuff for the scruff. And then maybe we can reconnect sometime and you could tell me which one your favorite product is. Because normally that's what my last question is. But with things being as they have been, I hadn't had time to get you any products yet.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I look forward to it. I'll send it to you.